The Earl of Lindale was dying. Again. He lay shriveled and frail in his bed, cheek sunken and skin wan. His right hand rested over his heart as if he waited to feel its last pulse. He presented a pitiable image of an old man facing the end. Ewan McLean was not impressed. His uncle Duncan pretended to lie at death's door at least once a year. Each imminent departure from the earthly realm summoned his sons and nephew so they could ease his passing. While on his deathbed, he issued demands and extracted promises of outrageous presumption. Then he would recover and use those promises like a whip to get all the cattle lined up in the direction he had decided they should go. "I fear the end will come tonight." The Earl spoke it like a line in a stage drama, which for all intents and purposes it was. "I need to set matters in order before I go." He held out a trembling hand. Ewan took it and smiled indulgently. He had been here for 4 days, waiting for the Earl to decide when to finish the game. "Since Hamish is not here, I must confide in you," the Earl said, referring to his heir. Ewan was all too aware that Hamish was not here. Right now, Hamish and his younger brother were enjoying fresh air and sunshine on the continent, and not sitting in this draughty old castle in a room hung with heavy green drapes. The same faded fabric framed the Earl's body on the big bed, falling in languid swags like stage curtains. The interruption of Ewan's visit to London by the summons had been irritating enough, but the discovery that his cousins, the Earl's own sons, had escaped the call by going abroad really annoyed him. "I will confess that I am glad it is you, my boy. Hamish would not have understood the matter that weighs on me. You know how he is." "I certainly do. All too well." Hamish had grown into one of those pursed-lipped, morality-spewing, judgmental Scots. When the Earl eventually died, which Ewan expected would not happen for another decade or so, Ewan anticipated that Hamish would try to reform his cousin by threatening the allowance that augmented Ewan's income from his modest property. His uncle had never been so intrusive in his private life, but then his uncle had a history that did not permit umbrage over bad behaviour without considerable hypocrisy. The current Earl of Lindale had been a rake in his youth and a roue in his maturity. Ewan suspected that the fair-haired woman floating about the castle today was the current mistress. In short, the Earl had more in common with his nephew than with his sons. If he chose to play at dying when only Ewan was available, that meant his demands for promises this time probably had to do with matters that only another rake would take in stride. "There is a letter that explains it all." The Earl pointed his trembling hand toward a writing table. Ewan watched the arm and finger stretch out while the Earl rose on one shaky arm. His pose imitated that of a dying father in a painting by Grits. An engraving that reproduced the painting was in Uncle Duncan's extensive fine print collection, its theatrical sentimentality obviously appreciated often by its current owner. "You must give the letter to Hamish. You must swear that you will see that he carries out my wishes that are contained in it." "I will be in no position to do so. He will be the Earl. I will remain a dependent relative and can demand nothing of him." "Tell him you are bound by your promise to me." "That will be of no account to him. You are asking that I harass a man for the rest of my life, that I pound my head against a stone wall. It isn't fair to make demands that I cannot fulfill." "You can make him see that it must be done, if you put your mind to it. You are far more clever than he is." Ewan was losing his patience. Being blackmailed into his own promises was one thing. Being forced to ensure that others acted in compliance with Uncle Duncan's whims was another. "What is this vitally important matter, Uncle? Attending the next sheep shearing? Escorting some cast-off mistress to a ball?" The Earl's demands were never dreadful, just damned inconvenient and often boring. "I did a grievous offence to a man in my youth. The next Earl must right this wrong. What kind of wrong? Most likely his uncle had bedded a friend's wife. For all of his envy of the last century's ribald behaviour, seducing a friend's wife was something Ewan himself would never do. Once, when he and Uncle Duncan had gotten foxed together, he had tried to explain to the old goat how that was dishonourable. Uncle had simply been unable to grasp the nuances. I was vengeful and went too far. It has preyed on my conscience ever since. I had intended to right matters, but now... His hand went to his heart again. Well, if it is something that the Earl of Lindale should do, then you can still make it right yourself, when you are better. I will never be better. I tell you, I am dying. Uncle Duncan spoke emphatically, with powerful strength of voice. His dark eyes glared out from under his bedcap's edge, and his colour rose to a nice, healthy pink. Ewan experienced profound annoyance. This entire drama had been so unnecessary. There had been no reason for Uncle Duncan to pretend he was dying. There had been no justification in dragging Ewan from London and from the delicious pursuit of pretty Mrs. Norton.